Hi everyone, and welcome to week 2 of Into the Flow. You might notice I'm in a slightly different location this week. So I am in Thailand, and it's the very start of our Qigong retreat here. So it's going to be a whole week of a lot of Qigong every day. So really looking forward to that. The others are just finishing up dinner over there, but I've got to get these videos made for you, so I'm quickly doing this before we continue on with some of our retreat activities. Alright, so there was an interesting question during the week that I'm going to demonstrate a little bit to do with, so I'll do that now. So the question was about when we're shifting the weight from one leg to the other, do we keep the feet flat on the ground, or do we potentially come up onto the heel or onto the ball of the foot as we shift the weight? And we're actually going to be focusing on this a lot this week as we focus on empty and full, and moving and shifting the weight and the force from leg to leg. So it's not one or the other thing, as the person who asked the question noted, that each gives a distinct feeling, and that's right. And so which you will do really depends on what you're planning on doing next with the energy or next with the movement. Because with our feet on the ground, as we shift our weight, we stay very well anchored or grounded, connected to the earth. And so we're very solidly on the ground. This can be side to side. It could also be front and back. I'm very connected to the earth. I'm still very connected to the earth as I move from one side to the other. Even though I'm filling the energy into one leg, emptying out of the other, I'm still staying strongly connected with both. Now, what happens if I start to lift and shift to the heel or the ball? So again, I'm shifting all of that weight into one leg, emptying the other, shifting it all into the other. But instead of now staying connected to the earth, I'm starting to lift that connection, or lift my roots from the earth. What this is going to do is it's going to mean it's then easier to completely disconnect and lift the leg all of the way away. So not just empty the weight out, but to then lift it, to unground it, unroot it, and lift it. So this is going to be very useful if we want to lift the leg for any reason, whether it be to stay in one position and lift it, as we're going to do in some movements and some practices, or if it might be to lift the leg and then possibly then place it in a different position, which we will do if we need to move further than we can with our feet on the ground. So for example, walking, but in other things where we need to shift our body through space. So yes, they will feel different. We'll either be staying grounded and connected, or we'll be staying grounded and connected with one leg while unrooting the other, so that we can shift the leg. And it's going to depend on what you're planning to do next. So hopefully that's useful for you. As I said, we are focusing on this very thing this coming week a lot, so you'll have a lot of time to practice that and experiment with the difference between those two. The other question that it's been interesting, different people have asked it in all three of the different courses that are running at the moment, is, if you're wanting to do more than one different type of practice from the different courses, what order should you do them in? And so, yeah, I'm actually just going to insert what I recorded for one of the other courses in here now. Oh, before I forget, there was a little bit of a question this week about the order of doing some of the different practices. So I'll talk about that a little bit now as well. I'm going to be talking about that for a few courses this week. It seems to be coming up for quite a few people. And it becomes relevant if you are doing more than one course, or if you have already completed some of the Long White Cloud Qigong courses and you want to keep practicing them. What order should you do the different practices in? Now, the practices do stand alone. If you're just doing one set of practices by itself, that's fine. That's a good Qigong practice. But it can be helpful to do them together, and you may want to do that, and there is a natural flow between them. So we use different analogies to describe things in Qigong, to describe the flow of the energy, and one of the analogies we often use is water. So in the exercises for the 12 rivers and Qigong foundation practices, well, it's the organ meridians, and they flow very much like a river. That's the way the energy moves, or like water, it flows like a river. Then in between heaven and earth, we focus on the flow, a flow like ocean currents. So it's a big flow, because what happens, the rivers, they flow, and eventually they always flow somewhere. They go to the ocean or the lakes, which is the reservoirs inside the body. But for that energy flow to stay healthy, it has to move. It doesn't just sit there, it has to move. And so there are flows like ocean currents within the body, and that's quite different from the flow of a river. It's still water moving, but the nature of that flow is quite different. And then the flow of those ocean currents create the evaporation and send energy into the atmosphere, water into the atmosphere, or fills our energy field. The last step in that is the rain coming down and going everywhere, all over the body, which then flows back into the rivers flow into the ocean currents send energy or water into the atmosphere, and it rains back down. And the end of the flow is like those working with the rain and moving the energy all over the body. So what order should you do them in? Well, you can do it in a variety of ways. You're not really going to harm yourself doing it in a different way, but generally you would do Qigong foundation practices, or 12 rivers, then between heaven and earth, then enter the flow. But equally, you can start at any point in that cycle. You could go into the flow, then 12 rivers, then between heaven and earth, or you could go between heaven and earth, then into the flow, then 12 rivers. So you can go around starting at any point in the cycle. You wouldn't tend to go in the opposite direction, though. It wouldn't be as beneficial for you. So I hope that's helpful. And hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how how the different practices can fit together. Okay, as usual, I hope you enjoy your practice this week, and I look forward to hearing from you with your progress reports and any questions that you may have at the end of the week.